Stay tuned. Your program will begin shortly.
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 All right, here we are, Weir High School, talking with head coach Frank Sassini. Very, very gracious to meet with us during the day. Coach, hate taking you away from that chemistry class, but life is good here at Weir High. Congratulations on the season, Coach. Great run. We enjoyed following you. We love what you did, and I want to talk first off about you getting your goal of getting Weir High football back on the map, hosting a game up here on the hill, in your season in general. Let's talk about that.
Well, when you first look at the season, we always had some high expectations when it came to this group. We saw it last year when this group had a lot of success in making West Virginia playoffs last year, getting to the first round and losing to Roan. But what it did is set a standard for this senior year that we're not going to be satisfied with a first round berth. That we want to get into the playoffs and do some things. But this group of seniors is a group that's special to me because when I inherited the program off Coach Roberto, that it was during the COVID years, 20 and 21, that these kids were freshmen on the field, and we knew that when they progressed as freshmen or seniors, juniors and seniors, that we would see some successes. And we didn't know exactly the level of it, but the expectations were high coming in. We ended up being 9-1 this year and OVAC champions for the first time since 2005 in 4A. So we're very happy with that and what's going on with the season. But I'd say this group was very anxious to get this season started to see where the chips would fall.
Yeah, well, I'm excited for you, Coach, because you got that good freshman class coming, and you see them coming. You had to take your lumps along the way, and I'm sure you just relayed to your kids, that and your coaching staff that it would just be a learning process and a growing process for you. And then it doesn't always happen that way, but it did come to fruition with you, and you got the accolades, and you're playing a team now that you beat earlier in the season. Frankfurt, they come in at 7-3. I believe they're the 12th seed. Right. It's a 5-12 game. So before we do anything else, let's talk about that first game in Frankfurt in general. And then after a break, we'll come back and talk about them again.
Well, we had a tough start to the season when it comes to the opponents we were playing, and we had some tough challenges on the road at Toronto and then coming back home against Crete. But we definitely knew that was the marquee game that we wanted to see statewide, where we stood. And what better way to bring Frankfurt High School into Jimmy Carey and go against a team that had, in 2022, gone to the semifinals and lost to the eventual state champion. Actually, they lost to Hoover, who played the state championship. That we knew that Frankfurt would be a challenge for us coming into the year. So they came into that game in week 4 state ranked. And we were, lingering there in the bottom of the rankings. I think they might have been a 4 or 5 seed at the time. But we had a strong outing that night. And, as usual, we controlled the front and did real well against Frankfurt, which is a system team. Coach Whiteman and his staff out in the Eastern Panhandle, they do a great job. They run the wing T system. And I always say it all the time, that's like a cult. Those guys do a great job with it. And they attack you based on math. When you put so many here, they're going to attack this side. But they're an off-tackle team. They did well against us that night. But if you remember, I don't know if you remember back that far, but it was a track meet back and forth. We had some big plays. They had some big plays. And then the game settled in, and our kids got their nerves calmed a little bit. And then we settled and started playing our brand of football. And we come out with the victory in week 4. And, it set us in a direction that, we were very happy with. And we knew that Frankfurt was going to go off and get us some playoff points. So they went off and did their thing like they normally do in the Eastern Panhandle. So we collected some points there, and it put us in a scenario where it kind of flip-flopped, where we are now the 5 seed, and they dropped to the 12. It's very similar where we were at, comparable to each other back in week 4. But now we're going to see each other again. Looking at them on film, it's a very same system, I should say. Very unique system in a way when it comes to how they attack off tackle. They might change some blocking schemes here and there, but it's still wing T football and how they attack things. So our kids understand the game plan because we had put things together previously in the year. So it's a lot of rehashing some of the things they had done against us, but at the same time looking at some of the things they had done to their opponents in the last weeks of the season.
Well, Coach, you know what? You mentioned something. I remember me and you talking about it at one of the coaches shows that we had at Basil's And I want to remind everybody that this show is sponsored by Blakemore Insurance Agency. Billy Blakemore, a good friend, want to thank him for his support of Weir High. But we talked about your schedule, and you said you scheduled some teams, like Frankfurt, to test your mettle. You went into Ohio, you played a good Toronto team, you played a good Martins Ferry team, you did well. So it was thought out to challenge, and to prepare you for what you believed was going to be a good team, I think.
I agree with that, and that's always the premise, to push it farther and farther, to get ourselves exposed to great competition, which we played this year. And then, at the end of the year, you always have the rival game against Brook, where it's always a challenge. And that game was tough all the way into the half and into the third quarter until we separated a little bit. But you've seen even going to the East Liverpool game. It's a program that's going to be up and coming, and you saw a lot of strides that were beneficial to them this year. But
yes,
for us to go 9-1 in UAVAC is a tall task, and to see where we ended up at the finals in 4A, to be at the top and just above St. Clairsville football, which is very good football. And we got some help from Willing Park when they had beat them throughout the year. That we have a standard here that's about championships. We've got a school that has produced 8 state championships, and we have a history of OVAC championships. And that's the message to our kids all the time, is that 100 years of football is phenomenal. We've learned about the past. We've learned about the guys that have come before us. But now it's time to tell your story. It's time, to do your thing, time to win your OVAC championship, and to qualify for the playoffs, and to get a home playoff game up here on the Hill was very important to us. We've talked about that for the last year or two, because our last playoff scenario, we were in the West Virginia State playoffs at home, was down at the old Jimmy Carey Stadium in 2008. So we're happy to be up here on the Hill. When I say that, I reference the fact that in 2012, the new stadium was built, and Jimmy Carey was brought up here. But some of the traditions are no longer in play because they're down at that old stadium. But we always wanted to bring that up here on the Hill, and this is their opportunity to show the community and everyone at Weir High and all the alumni, which I think we did back at the 100-year game, that we are playing an old school brand of football, a Weir High brand of football that we're excited about, and hopefully the community is excited about as well.
Well, being a graduate at Catholic Central, we played against Weir High, and coaching at Big Red, you played against Weir High. I'm very, very familiar with the tradition. The 100-year show that we did this year, 100 years of football that we did at Basil's, was outstanding. It was great to see the greats. It was good to walk through the school with you and see the Fritz Williams wall and the state championship wall with Bob Kelly and Bob Jeter. A lot of tradition here, and these kids can be proud, as you and your staff could be, that now you're laying your own bricks, on this, and you're doing it up here on the Hill with a beautiful complex that you got up here with the new fields and everything. And Weir High is moving forward, Coach, and we want to congratulate you on the outstanding year that you've had to this point.
Thank you, and I attribute that to first and foremost the kids and the way they're playing, and what they put into this in the off season. The coaching staff, our booster organization, everyone in the community that's helped with our, any businesses that are involved with us. So, we're an extension of them, we're a product of them, and we just want to put a product out there that they're all excited and happy about. And I think that we're moving in the right direction. The COVID year's a little bit of a stumble, but, looking at, last year playoffs and this year playoffs, we think we're moving in the right direction. But I can't go any further without saying that, Coach Roberto had established, when he come back in 11 and 12, the pride and tradition of this school. And when we come in together here, we went on a strong playoff run. It was about a 6-year playoff run, but unfortunately we were lower the seeds, and we never got to really host. So this is the opportunity that these guys can bring that's unique to the other classes that come before them, that now we can play and make this, something special up here on the Hill.
Well, I hope you fill the stadium up. High Valley Sports Online will be there in some way, form or fashion. We'll talk about that as we move forward. But we're going to take a quick break here. This is sponsored by Bill Blakemore Insurance Agency. When we come back, we're going to talk about the entire playoff picture, Coach. So this is High Valley Sports Online from Weir High School with Coach Frank Sassini. We'll be right back.
Blakemore Insurance Agency is exclusive to the senior market. We represent a variety of Medicare supplements or Medicare Advantage plans, giving us the ability to offer some of the most competitive products from the top insurance companies in our country. Our loyalty lies with you, our customer, not the insurance company. Many of today's seniors are completely overwhelmed with turning 65 and going on to Medicare. Call Blakemore Insurance Agency today for more information. 304-723-0909. Blakemore Insurance Agency is a proud sponsor of this broadcast.
Ohio Valley Sports Online would like to thank one of our great sponsors, Capital Recovery Systems. Capital Recovery Systems is home of the no-cost court collections program. Capital Recovery Systems is a proud sponsor of this broadcast.
All right, we're back here at WEIR High School, Ohio Valley Sports Online, proud to bring you the Frank Sassini Coaches Show here. WEIR High coming in as the number 5 seed, going to play the number 12 coach. Let's talk about the whole scenario of what WEIR High is facing here, other than the fact that you play Frankfurt. I want to talk about them specifically, but tell our viewers here just the whole picture of if, ands, ors, wheres, and buts, and everything that you came to your meeting and how it went.
Well, let's start with this past weekend. So what happens in the state of West Virginia is there's a meeting in Parkersburg where the West Virginia SSAC offices are held. And anyone who qualifies for the playoffs, everyone's kind of like watching the TV, watching the internet, watching all these websites that put out these rankings that possibly they can get to a point where you are in the top 16 and you've made the West Virginia playoffs. And then you have to make the trip to Parkersburg, and every school and administrator from each school, each representative needs to go down, and then they get the pairings, and they give you the layout of the land and how everything works for the playoffs, and if you're a host team or a travel team. But how it works is the top seed host, and then the lower seed gets to pick the day and time in West Virginia. So with us being the host site, we obviously pick Jimmy Carey Stadium, and then Frankfurt has the opportunity to pick Friday night 7:30, Saturday afternoon at 1:30, or even a Saturday night game.
Oh, okay.
That can even come into play as a 7:30 situation, which a lot of teams do not do because of prep situations. But looking at the state of West Virginia and the way things are laid out, there isn't a regional site like you would see in Ohio. There is home field advantages based on the seeding. So what they do is reward you for what you've done during the year, but they also make it a venue where the opposing team gets to pick what day they play. And that's in play because the way, the geography of this state, a lot of the teams are basically downstate. So you get teams from the Charleston area, the Eastern Panhandle in this case, and we're playing Frankfurt, that you may have to travel. And it happened to us last year. We ended up in Spencer, West Virginia, at Roan High School, and we stayed overnight with our kids in Ripley, West Virginia, which is about 3.5 hours away. So when that layout happens, they lay out, how you're going to travel. It gives teams time to book their hotels and figure out their itineraries, which is a big process in itself. And what we're happy about this year is we don't have to do that in the first round, and we sit and wait and see what happens and how this thing lays out, because looking at the games behind us, you have Nitro versus Scott again, and Scott had got upset last Friday. So it's a rematch where Nitro is playing Scott, and we play the winner of that game. So what's going to happen there is, we're fortunate enough to be up on the hill. Nitro would travel to us because of the lower seed. And anyone's familiar with the Charleston area, that's where Nitro High School is. And then Scott High School, which is the higher seed, we would have to travel to them if they beat Nitro. That's down below Charleston, about an hour and a half, hour or so below Charleston. So there's some unique scenarios that we look into that could come into play. Next week we have to look forward a little bit when it comes to how we travel. But that'll all be laid out based on the results that come in Friday night and where we would be headed.
Well, that scenario continues throughout the playoffs until the finals, right? Go to Wheeling.
Correct. The Super Six is in Wheeling, so everyone in the community understands that, that's always the first weekend in December down on Wheeling Island. But how that works throughout we definitely enjoy the home field situation to where we're in a scenario, if there's upsets along the way and we're the higher seed, if Nitro beats Scott, then we're going to host again next week. And then in this scenario, Nitro would pick what day they would play. So it could be Friday night next week or Saturday afternoon next week or Saturday evening. But that's how it would work throughout until you get to the semis. And then obviously the finals are there in Wheeling. But that's how it would work throughout the whole scenario.
All right, that's Coach Frank Sassini bringing you up to snuff on that, Coach. But first things first, now you got Frankfurt at home on Friday night. Let's talk about them a little bit now. You know, what has changed, if anything, for Frankfurt that you got to be on guard for?
They have a really strong tailback in Fontenot. They have a senior lated backfield. And it's their wing T system up front. It's a lot of angles and pulling. And there's, that old adage in football that, the backfield lies to you in the wing T system. So we've been working on that, all week. And there's times where you can practice without the football and just work on the pulling and things that those teams do to you. And, it's a system that's ran by other schools. But, I can sit here and talk about maybe what they do differently. Some teams adapt and move in different directions. But when you run the wing T, that's what you hang your hat on, and that's what they do. So they've got a skill set in the backfield, a really strong fullback and tailback. And, their quarterback's only a sophomore, so you don't have to do much but just manage the game. But they're not a team that's going to spread you out. They're a team that's going to hit you off tackle and hit you with some sweeps and hit the perimeter, which they did to us a few times. So, like I said, I mentioned the Fontenot kid. He had some strong runs against us, and he had a 65-yard touchdown or so. But those are things that we're looking at, even in week 12 here, that we are sitting in a spot where we're very familiar with them, but on the other side, they're very familiar with us.
Yes.
And, they're going to have their game plan, we'll have ours, and it'll be a tough game, as usual, because Frankfurt football on Eastern Panhandle is one of the top programs in the state of West Virginia out there when it comes to AA. And it's another challenge for us, and we'll accept that challenge when they get in Friday night.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll tell you one thing about your football team. I mean, your defensive front has played well all year, and they will be challenged. But I like the opportunity for that group right there to be challenged because they've been solid for you.
They have, and it's been proven from week to week. And a lot of things that have been happening is we've been slow, having a slow start here and there in a few games, but halftime I attribute to our veteran players and our coaching staff, the amount of adjustments we're making at halftime and coming out and playing solid second halves. But it's definitely that unit up front, defensively and offensively, that we're seeing a lot of our successes. I saw 2 weeks ago against Brook where Brook come out to start the half, and it was a close game, and we had stopped them and forced them to a field goal attempt, and we blocked it, and then we drove down and had a score. So it really flipped the game, but that's really what had happened coming out of that locker room at halftime, and with the veteran leadership that we have at our defensive line, and a lot of the linebacker play we're getting, but very strong efforts by these kids, and we're seeing a lot of the successes that are going on in the second half of our football games because of those reasons.
Well, it's Ohio Valley Sports Online. We're going to follow our lone wolf in West Virginia, the We're High Red Riders. Coach, congratulations on a great year.
Thank you.
Wish you the best of luck Friday. We'll be there. Ohio Valley Sports Online. We're going to bring you that action one way or another. This is Ray Suckarts along with Coach Frank Sassini for Ohio Valley Sports. We'll see you Friday night. Thanks for watching.
Represent a variety of Medicare supplements or Medicare Advantage plans, giving us the ability to offer some of the most competitive products from the top insurance companies in our country. Our loyalty lies with you, our customer, not the insurance company. Many of today's seniors are completely overwhelmed with turning 65 and going on to Medicare. Call Blakemore Insurance Agency today for more information. 304-723-0909. Blakemore Insurance Agency is a proud sponsor of this broadcast.
You know, Fort Steuben Maintenance should be your first choice when it comes to any and all construction projects, whether it's commercial or residential. Make Fort Steuben Maintenance your first call. You can rely on them to be the experts when it comes to roofing, concrete, plumbing, carpentry, just about any job that needs done. Fort Steuben Maintenance, they're fully licensed and bonded and will even give you a free estimate. Fort Steuben Maintenance. You want the number? 740-283-4890.
Okay, here we are, High Valley Sports Online. We got a special edition in honor of Big Red's playoff push here, moving into the third round of action, Division 4, Region 15. This is sponsored by Josephine's Carryout in Mingo Junction. With us today is former coach and player at Big Red, Bob Radakovich, as well as former player on the 05 state championship team, Matt Bellardine. Thanks for joining the show, fellas. We appreciate it.
Appreciate you having us here, Ray.
Thanks for the opportunity, Coach.
Bobby, I want to start with you, man. You played for Big Red 68, 69, then coached there. You've seen the big changes in just the style of football. You played in the era of what do you want to say, 3 yards in a cloud of dust and played tough defense, but you played in the awesome All-American Football Conference that Abe Bryan was instrumental in getting you into. Well, let's talk about that first off before we get into the changes.
I played in 68 and 69. That were my junior and senior years. We had a disappointing junior year. I think we were 5-5. Then my senior year, we were 7-2-1. We ended up getting beat the first game of the year against Louisville, Kentucky, who had a really good football team. Their uniforms looked like the New York Jets.
Trinity, yeah. Louisville Trinity.
Yeah, and they're one of the higher programs in the whole country. They've had real good tradition. So that was a tough game. We took that loss. Then later in the season, we tied Masson 0-0. They didn't have playoffs in those games in those days, and there was no playoffs. No overtime and no playoffs, so the game ended 0-0. And then we upset Camp McKinley later on that year. They were number one in the state. They were beating us 14-0, and Bobby Washington intercepted the pass, went to the house, and we came out and beat them in the second half, so that was a big upset. But like I said, there was no playoffs in those days, so that was the end of the season. Then you go on your other sports, basketball, whatever. So, but I had it was a old school coaching staff. Maybe Brian was a real strict with discipline and had some good coaches. So got some good experience there for what I was going to do later on in life, which is coach. So it was a good program to be in, and I was fortunate to be part of it.
Yeah, I want to join Matt in because you were part of coaching Matt. Matt, you know, you had the experience of playing for Big Red. You win the state championship. What kind of feelings can you relate to these kids now that are trying to do that? And Big Red in the past, you know, as you get older, you know, you enjoy watching the kids make a push. What can you relate to what these kids are going through now?
Yeah, a lot, Coach. You know, I had the privilege of coming down here and playing, and you know, things I learned from my coaches down here, I use in my everyday life. You know, especially with you know the humbleness around things. You know, when I played, we played 15 games, we won 15 games, and you know, a big point of emphasis throughout that season was no matter, you know, how high we were or, you know, how much we continued to win, you know, we had to stay humble through the whole process, you know, and that was a big coaching point Coach Reno gave us, and that's something that I still every day continue to use, you know, in my life. No matter, you know, in the line of work I'm in, I approach every day, you know, with humility and hard work. And, you know, if I always stay humble and I can work as hard as I can possibly work, I feel we will always have success, and we'll have consistent success, you know, in whatever you're doing. And I think any kid can relate to that, whether, you know, he played in 2005 or plays now. You know, no matter how good you're doing, you remain humble. And that's something I learned. I played with a great group of guys down here, man. I was just a good player on a great team, and you know, I credit that, you know, to our coaches and all the preparation that we put in. You know, I keep something on the wall down at my shop that that I always live by it. And, you know, it's from the late, great Bobby Knight. You know, he just happened to, you know, pass away. And it was, you know, everybody has the will to win, but not everybody has the will to prepare to win. You know, and if you have the will to prepare to win, whether you're playing football or, you know, you're in business, I think you can always succeed in what you're doing.
Well put. I appreciate that. Now, Bobby, getting back to you on this subject, I mean, you come from the era that we talked about, that we played in, where, you know, very, very few passes were played. But when you got the opportunity to call the plays for Big Red, and I know Reno gave you a free hand, you opened it up. Yeah. And Matt was part about that. That's the biggest change.
Yeah, but when Reno and I were hired together here, and when he became the head coach, I became the offense coordinator, and we evolved over the years. When I look back at some of our earlier films, which I'll occasionally watch something back, like when we played Bookville 2 years in a row, that we were pretty conservative offensively. We didn't throw it near as much as they do now. But as my eye evolved and our offense evolved, we became more wide open, which was a trend nationwide, really. It was something that's changed completely. I mean, I think JoJo's done a great job of carrying that on and adding to it. He does a really good job. So I enjoy watching, because I think his philosophy is a lot like mine. We were big into running all multiple formations, but you run the same basic plays. You just give it a look. And I think that's the basis of doing it. So I'm real happy to watch him. Reno's always had the old school way of doing things, which I'm all for. I've always believed you're supposed to get something out of football rather than bruises and wins. You know, you should get character building and all those things that Matt was talking about. But the key to Big Red, I think, and you got to put it in Reno's lap, because you think of a program that we have here now, or we've had over the last 40 years. Think about that. He's been here 40 years, and he's got over 420 wins. That's more than 10 wins a year. And I know my time of coaching with them, we only had one losing season, and if I remember right, we had 12 undefeated teams. And in fact, my last 5 years of coaching, we won the state championship on paper every year in the polls, and we won 2 on the field. And my last 3 years coaching, we were 66-3. Think about that, 66-3. So what's atmazing to me is how Big Red has had a steady winning program every year over the last 40 years. You got to attribute that to Reno. As far as coaching here, I love coaching here. I got a lot of guys, a lot of good friends of mine I coach with. We have dedicated guys that wanted to learn and wanted to win. And that first coaching staff especially just had a place in my heart, because I think that kind of got us all going. So it's been a real pleasure coaching here. And Reno and I have been friends since before this even started.
Boy Scouts.
Yeah, Boy Scouts. He and my brother were the only two who got kicked out of Boy Scout boot camp because they were smoking. So they got caught and they got sent home. So that's the experience there.
I mean, you talk about those coaches. I mean, like, you know, Paul Phillips. I mean, Bill Bruni. I mean, Tommy Mitchell.
Great guy.
I mean, a solid staff. Don Butch Morrison. I mean, I remember the long hours, you know, and things to that effect that we put in preparing, and all the work. I think that we were ahead of everybody, as analytical as we were, which helped us, because we were very, very well prepared, and we scouted well. I believe that. And
you got to give Reno credit in that realm too, because he's been 40 years and he's only had 2 offense coordinators, me and JoJo, and to have that steady all the time is, I think, part of the key to success. And he's only had 3 defensive coordinators: Bill Bruni, Anthony Pirro, and now Todd Phillips. So I think that's helped too, is he hasn't had a lot of changeover. So I think that's the key. But we evolved offensively and defensively. Have evolved and had a lot of success in the playoffs. That's one thing you got to look at our program too. Not just how many times you get in playoffs, but what's your winning percentage at. So, but overall, I enjoyed being here. 30 years is a long time. A lot of hard work, like Raymond. I have 2 feet that hurt a lot, so I can't coach anymore. But I love the guys I coach with. I love the players we had. When I die, I hope I can say that I did something to help somebody. So this has been a great place to be, and I really appreciate the people who gave me a chance to do that.
Matt, can you see a difference, Matt? I mean, people talk about it all the time. I got my own opinions on it. You're a lot younger than us. Do you think that it's a whole different ball game with the kids today, different kids?
Yeah, I do. I definitely think, think times have changed, and, from when you guys played to when I played to now, I think everything has changed. We was talking about that this morning, that, when certain people around your guys' age were young, things were different. When I was young growing up, things were different than that. And, the kids that are here now, when they grew up, things are different now. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Like you said, you can kind of have your own opinions on it and everything, but I think it all just comes down to, the core values. If you respect your coaches and you work hard and you come to practice every day wanting to win, Friday night takes care of itself. If you really put the work in before, Friday, then you'll be okay. But I think as far as coaches nowadays, I think they have a lot tougher time, coaching kids nowadays than maybe they did, when I played or when you guys played. And I think that is, like Coach Radoff talked about, the consistency that we've had here, the consistency Coach Reno's had here. He was able to develop and change with the times, even and maybe still keep that, old school mentality with it. But I think nowadays, you don't have much of a choice but to change a little bit. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think it makes it a little tougher on the coaches now and, doing what they were always used to do. But, a ton of credit to Coach, all the coaches that I've had down here, because I know we would have done anything for them, and because we knew that they truly cared about us. They were real people in real circumstances or situations in your life. And I know I can speak for my class, and we would have done anything for any of the coaches that we had. And I know it would have been reciprocated the other way. So, I do think times have changed, but, our coaches down here and our kids, I think we got the best kids in the state, in the world, and I think they're the toughest. And, I think that's why we have that consistency.
Well, Big Red's success is contingent, I believe, on the guy who we just lost in Dr. Dan Keenan. I mean, I think that he might be a little bit before your time, man. Because he got it all together. I mean, he becomes superintendent, I think, my first year in 77, something to that extent. And I think a lot of the credit goes to him as well, because since that time, not before that, I can't speak for, but since that time of Dan Keenan, Big Red has had a solid administration behind them where everybody pulled in the same direction. And I think it even brought the booster club and the fan base together too, because of the consistency that Dr. Dan Keenan laid. And that gave us coaches 30 years to the extent of that.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. His philosophy was, when you hire somebody, let them do their job. And that's Reno's philosophy. I mean, like me being the offense coordinator and Anthony Pirro and Bill Bruin being defense coordinators, Reno hired you and let you do your job. I mean, there were times Reno said, "How about we do this?" I said, "No, I don't want to do that." He said, "It's your baby. You take care of it." So, and that gives you a lot of costs, because you have ownership of what you're doing. And I think that's key. And Dr. Keenan was definitely like that. He hired Reno, and Reno was not really the favorite pick by some of the board members. And Dr. Keenan pushed for him, and he saw something in Reno. He let him run his show, and you see the results. So it's been a great. You got to develop a culture, and Reno developed a kind of culture. It was a winning culture, and you had to own up to what you do, and I think that's the key. So. Dr. Keenan was a good man. He just unfortunately just passed lately. I was in a car accident, was hospital for 3 weeks, and he called me 2 times just to, brighten my day. So I love the guy. So
yeah, he was a great man, and I think you both have touched on it today in saying the relationships that have been built through coaches and players. There's always that camaraderie between all of us because we always had one common goal, and that was for Big Red to win. And tell us a little thoughts, you guys. Matt, you go first. Tell us a little bit about Big Red this year. Any joy that you're feeling in watching them make a push.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing this year is, I think we have gotten better all year. We started how we started. We had the loss to Ursuline. We found out that Ursuline was a pretty damn good team. But I feel that if we had another crack at them, the result would be different. So for me, watching this team progress as the year has gone on, once again, is a credit to our coaches and also a credit to our players. Buying into what our coaches are preaching on a day-to-day basis. I've just seen improvement everywhere. Defensively, the quarterback position especially. I've seen a lot of improvement through the years. The kid takes care of the ball, and like Coach said, JoJo has done just an outstanding job, in my opinion. We haven't necessarily changed what we've always done down here, but we're a tough team. We live by the run. We can run the football, but Isaac Hill is one heck of a player. I got to give a lot of credit to that kid because I think he's ahead of his time. And, I know we've had a lot of great players down here, and he's definitely in that category. And, I don't know if I've seen anybody as good as he's been this year in some time. I think he's one heck of a player, and I think Todd's doing a good job too. I think, every week, we consistently get a little bit better. And I feel like where we are right now that, we're really hot right now, and we're going to continue to be hot. And I think we can make one heck of a run if we keep on the same track that we're on right now.
Bobby, do you feel, Bob, when you watch the games, Bob, do you watch it more as a fan or do you watch it as a coach?
Mostly as a fan. I don't try to get too analytical while I'm watching the game. Once in a while, things will come through that'll strike me. But the thing that I see is Reno's established this as a tradition. He really has pushed that from day one when he started coaching, which was great. So he's carried that on. He talks about past pro teams and stuff that we had, and he keeps in touch with the players. And I think that's important. So they all buy into this. And it starts in the junior high level, or maybe even earlier, 5th, 6th grade. They start with the lifting program. You start indoctrinating them with what we believe in. Like I said, it's carried on since I retired, and it's because Reno's kept the wheels on. So you got to give him credit. The consistency at a school this size to consistently have a winning program that's a contender for state championship. It's amazing over this number of years to be that consistent. Like I said, I coached one losing team, and they were 4-6, and we probably caused that because we practiced them too hard and got some injuries. So we learned from that.
All right, this is Ray Suckoff here at High Valley Sports Online. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with some final thoughts here in this segment sponsored by Josephine's Carryout out of Mingo Junction. We'll be right back.
Josephine's Authentic Italian Food is a proud sponsor of this broadcast. You can carry out or have it delivered. Do you have an event that needs catered? Well, give Josephine's a call today. 740-282-1599. Josephine's has an extensive menu. Look them up on Facebook or call them now. 740-282-1599. Josephine's Authentic Italian Food, carry out or delivery.
Amen. Okay, we're back here from the Cartledge Fieldhouse. The show sponsored by Josephine's Carryout, Mingo Junction. It's a Big Red Coaches show prior to Coach Reno coming on here shortly. I'm here with Bob Radakovich, longtime coach, Steubenville Big Red, as well as a player, as well as Matt Bellardine, who played on the 05 state championship team. Fellas, final thought just on Big Red making this push here. A lot of people behind, and we could go on and talk about Dr. Dan Keenan. We could talk about Jim Blackburn. We could talk about Pete Barron, all the support that Big Red has got. What kind of support you guys got for Big Red as they move forward in this Region 15 Division 4 semifinal game, Indian Valley.
Yeah. You know, it got to the point when I was coaching, and I'm sure it's still the situation. You played the regular season to get prepared for the playoffs. That was really your number one goal. So there were some times that games didn't get you excited too much, but they still had a purpose. You still wanted to get better by doing that. And what's great too is when you got these guys, like right now we're in the 13th week. We got kids that had 3 more weeks of practice, like for next year, the underclassmen. So that's always a great help. I think this team has a legitimate chance of winning the whole thing. Of course, you got to avoid injuries, and you got to get some luck and some breaks. But I think we could contend for the championship here, and I hope they just keep on rolling.
Matt, I think we're good enough to do the same. I don't know. You never know how things are going to turn out, but Matt, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, like I said, I think we got the best coaches and the toughest kids in the state of Ohio. So, if we could continue to win each week, stay humble about it. We got the toughest team in the state, and I truly believe that. Like I said earlier, it's easy to have.
Are you going to feed the team, Matt? You're giving all these compliments. I mean,
absolutely, yeah. Whatever Coach Reno wants, we'll take care of the team as best as we can.
And the OBSO announcers.
That's right.
All right, Bob. Final thoughts, buddy.
Well, one thing's amazed me is I can't believe how much Reno's kept us going because I carried him the first 30 years.
That's a good thing. Nobody's going to argue that point there. You've been carrying him since he got removed from the Boy Scouts with your brother. You know what I mean? So he set a fine example here. But Bobby, you had 2 kids. You had 2 kids that played for Big Red as well. Yeah. Brian and Andrew. So that was a thrill coaching your kids as well.
Sure. I put that right at the top with the other things. Yeah.
And Reno's moving on to coaching grandkids, so it's all cyclical. And Matt has little ones playing edge basketball, so they're coming along. All right, that's going to do it here. I want to thank everybody for watching. This segment has been sponsored by Josephine's Carryout in Mingo Junction, Ohio Valley Sports Online, with a special edition of the playoff run the Big Red's going on. Ray Suckarch along with Bob Radakovich and Matt Bellardine, as well as Dan Vogel behind the scenes. Thanks for watching.
Roll Red.
It comes to any and all construction projects, whether it's commercial or residential. Make Fort Steuben Maintenance your first call. You can rely on them to be the experts when it comes to roofing, concrete, plumbing, carpentry, just about any job that needs done. Fort Steuben Maintenance, they're fully licensed and bonded and will even give you a free estimate. Fort Steuben Maintenance. You want the number? 740-283-4890.
Okay, welcome to Ohio Valley Sports Online with the Reno Suckarch Coaches Show. Before we go any further, we want to continue to thank Jimmy Saltzman at Fort Steuben Maintenance for sponsoring this throughout the year and everything that we do. We appreciate that. Big Red moving to the semifinals of Region 15, Division 4, with a big win over Licking Valley. Coach, team continues to improve. Just give us an overall view of what you thought about that game.
First of all, I think the improvement is coming mainly from the players trusting each other, and the closer you get as far as a team, the more chemistry you develop, the closer relationship you get, the better your team's going to get. And I think that players are starting to trust each other, and trust is a tough word, but I think that the trust is helping us to improve. As far as Licking Valley goes, the hub of their offense was their quarterback. Their quarterback caused problems. And although I didn't really like the way we started out, sometimes it takes time to settle in. And once I think that we got settled in, once we got that first start, I thought our defense played really well. And part of that was because we kept the ball and scored on offense and always kept the lead, which kept pressure on their offense. And I think that offense, defense, special teams, our kickoff team did a very good job, and all that together. It's just like we played with the attitude that we weren't going to be beaten, and we attained our goals. We didn't turn the ball over. We didn't have any pre-snap penalties. We tackled pretty well, and we finished the game. And I just felt that overall the game was a very good game for us.
Well, like I've said it to you every week, and I've said it publicly. I mean, I just cannot remember a season when a Big Red football team faced so many good quarterbacks, and that was the same thing against Licking Valley. It's just been phenomenal, but I think that's a credit to the defense that we have stood up, and we've talked about the defensive secondary where they need pressure on the quarterback for help, and I think you're getting that now. The defensive front is playing well and helping out the secondary. It's a team game.
Well, the average human being always needs somebody to blame. So when a play happens, human instinct happens. It's his fault. It's his fault. It's his fault. You need a good pass rush. You need good coverage. You need everything, and everything goes into pass defense. And I don't think there's a person listening to this show or sitting at this table that can guard somebody for 7 seconds, allow them to run around. That's impossible. So, and plus their quarterback did a very, very good job of improvising. Not that they called plays for him, but he improvised from things that happened on the pass rush and that, and he made things go. And plus he was a good quarterback. And you give credit where credit's due. They had a good quarterback, they had good receivers, and they were a tough football team, well coached. And but we played better that night, and that's all that matters. It's one night. Bobby McCloskey taught me that. In 1972, we were going to play Minerva, first game of the year. They're ranked number 1 in the state. We're at United Local. We were 3-7 the year before. He said, walking down the field, I said, "What do you think, Coach?" He said, "Reno, anybody can beat anybody one time." So, and that's the philosophy I've kept for the last 50 years. Anybody can beat anybody one time. So it doesn't matter if you're the better team or the worst team going in. What are you Friday night?
Yeah, Bobby McCloskey, one of the greats in Big Red history, quarterbacked Harry Wilson's team, didn't he?
62 team, yes.
And Bobby McCloskey, former coach, now he's retired up in Beloit. Want to give him our best. But Coach, the thing that I rave about with this team that you have this year is I think it's a credit to the staff and to your players that every week you guys the team has improved every single week.
Well, minus the drama. We've had a lot of drama this year, but minus the drama, this has been a very good team to coach. When you have 65 football players, you're not going to have 65 older boys. You're going to have that's what makes a team. That's what takes time. People understand it takes time. It takes this kid from here and this kid from here and this kid from here and this kid with this parent and this kid with that parent and that kid with that parent and these coaches all coming together on the same page. You don't do it in a week. It takes time. And right now I feel that we're having very good practices and we're having very good games. But, today's a new day. We go out there today at 3 o'clock. It's a new 2 hours. And, Rome fell from within. And just, we gotta do our part. We gotta be focused for 2 hours today and be focused on the game. And that's more important than anybody realizes. Tuesday and Wednesday is probably more important than Friday.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break here. It's the High Valley Sports Online from the Cartledge Fieldhouse, right beneath Harding Stadium, with Coach Reno Sucklot, sponsored by Fort Steuben Maintenance. We'll take a quick break and we'll come right back and talk about this week's opponent, Indian Valley.
Got a sidewalk that needs replaced, or maybe your roof is leaking? How about some new... Fort Steuben Maintenance should be your first choice when it comes to any and all construction projects, whether it's commercial or residential. Make Fort Steuben Maintenance your first call. You can rely... Got a sidewalk that needs replaced, or maybe your roof is leaking? How about some new windows? Who do you call? Fort Steuben Maintenance, that's who. Commercial or residential, they can handle most any project, big or small. They also do new construction and renovations. So get a free estimate by calling Fort Steuben Maintenance today and get them started on your next project.
All right, we're back here at the Cartledge Fieldhouse with Coach Reno Suckoch in our Coaches Show, our weekly edition sponsored by Fort Steuben Maintenance. Coach, you got Indian Valley here. They come in at 9-3, Region 15 semifinals. You got a little bit of history about them with them. Tell us a little bit about Indian Valley.
Well, the first time we played them was 2013, and we were fortunate enough to win that game 17-14. Then we played them again last year, and it was a pretty good cold game, as I remember. But the thing that impressed me most about Indian Valley is their physical way they play, and the amount of heart they play with. I really respect that. I respect them and their coaches just for how they get after it. And win, lose, or draw, they're coming after you, and they don't back down.
Well, they're a tough kid. We got a little bit of history with them. We look forward to the challenge here. But how do you keep your kids motivated, Coach, to practice well during this playoff push that you got?
Well, I don't know about motivated all week, but I do say this, and I tell this to most of our teams. When your coaches are your leaders, you have a really good team. But when your players are your leaders, your seniors are your leaders, you have an excellent team. And as long as our seniors lead us, even whether it's a 2-hour practice or a 1-hour walkthrough, it's important that when your best guys on your team are your best workers, are your most focused players, then people follow. When your best guys on your team are lackadaisical, then that's the type of team you have. So right now, our best players on our football team are working hard and setting an example for the rest of the team. And that's a very good example to set. So I'd rather them follow our players than follow myself or the coaches. I just like the fact that our team knows, our team is smart, our team knows, our team hears it at home, how important the football game is. And right now they've been adjusting to that, and they've been taking that onto the field. And, we need a 2-hour good practice today, focused practice. I don't care about the enthusiasm, but we need a good focused practice. Yesterday we got a 1-hour and 5-minute offensive practice done in 53 minutes, and we got a 1-hour and 5-minute defensive practice done in 58 minutes because we had no reruns, very few reruns, and that's because guys are focused and doing what they're supposed to do.
Well, you're playing for all the marbles, Coach. High Valley Sports Online is going to be with you the rest of the way. Big Red's #1 media outlet will be there. I want to wish you the best of luck on behalf of all of us. Good luck, Coach. We'll see you Friday night.
Ray. I really appreciate the way you supported me and my family this whole time, and I appreciate it, and just thank you.
All right, buddy. It's Reno Suckoch, it's Ray Suckoch, along with Dan Vogel. Thanks for watching, everybody.